right now, as far as people who are researching Gobekli Tepe think, that there's no such thing as a female representation here, but there is. Okay, so you remember the whole thing about the horizon, right? We were talking about how on this pillar, this line is the horizon. Hi. The idea here is that there's a scene happening and all the attention of everything on the pillar is towards this. That nudging that I've talked, the whole reason why I prepared you with the nudging thing is because now you're going to understand what this is about. How everything's looking at this one spot. Oh, I'm getting mosquitoes too. Okay, so let's see what we can do here. And I just want to, before we start, I want to remind you of this. Remember this thing we looked at yesterday? How this is the carbon dating for the enclosure we keep looking at. So Pillar 43, the famous Pillar 43, is where they took the sample for the carbon dating. And remember we narrowed it down so that we know exactly that middle peak is exactly the time frame of everything that we've seen so far, the constellations that we've seen. It's the time stamp, and it happens to be right dead center of their carbon dating. But okay, so I want to show you this documentary. So I started talking about this documentary yesterday where about 10 years ago, it's like 13 years ago now, where BBC in Britain there, they did the documentary about Gobekli Tepe, and it was about wheat though. It was about the explosion of wheat. And so this guy got to meet Klaus, and he's showing how, here I can actually show you the wheat thing. He's looking at it through magnifying glass here. It was only 30 kilometers away from Gobekli Tepe, where all the einkorn wheat in the world is from, and it's because of this one feature. The seed, like the actual grain itself, is this piece, and it falls off real easy when it gets to maturity. That's how grass is successful. Grass just goes around the world so easy because the seeds come off so easy. But this particular strain of wheat, whether it happened by accident or not, the seal here, this seam is stronger, so it doesn't drop its seeds anymore. The grain doesn't fall off like it did before. So now this one particular example gets fat and heavy, and it bends over. And the reason why I have to show you this documentary is because of he sort of misled everybody, and not in a bad way. He didn't mean to do it, but he's got wheat on his mind. This guy's doing a documentary about wheat. So when he looks at Pillar 43 for the first time, see these bushels of wheat? He's talking about how they use the sickles. The world's first sickles are around this time too, right? Maybe a little before. And he's got this idea of bunches of wheat put together, right? Like keep that in your mind, how they bunched wheat up like this to carry it around. Because in his head, when he finally got to see Gobekli Tepe, and he got to talk to Klaus, when he talks about it being the turning point in history here, he's talking to him, he's thinking about wheat. He's thinking only about the wheat. Klaus talked about the potential religion there a lot too. Remember I said that the whole idea of the Neolithic explosion was about not just the wheat, but it's about the religion that tagged along with it. Pieces of a religion went along with the wheat as it spread out through the whole world, really. And okay, so now I can just jump right to Pillar 43 because I've got to show you something. I'm gonna help you discover this like I discovered it. But think about those bunches of wheat for a second, and you can see now why he would have thought. So when you look at this pillar now, can you see how he would have thought it could be about bunches of wheat? When you look at this, can you see it? I don't even see it anymore. My brain is I have a bias now. But you don't see it either, right? Well, I guess he was thinking, I think his eye picked up on how this is like a bunch. Like how, see, it sort of tapers here and then expands. Maybe he thought this was how it bunched together, like it was tied together here or something. But that's not what this stuff is. Remember, we said this is the horizon, so that's the ground, and this has to be the sky. If I'm right, this has to be the sky. And I tried to show you two other pillars related to this, but in order to really figure the stuff out, like you have to really get in there. You have to remember. This is also 18. There's an 18.6 here. Remember, this is a pillar that's aligned to the major lunar standstill, and it has those major lunar standstill numbers on it. There's an 18 on here. And I spent like 2 years trying to count these peaks. Like you look at, I was convinced that these were zigzags for me, right? I come in here and I see zigzags. That's what I saw. You saw the zigzags, right? On this?
Yeah.
You can see the zigzags? But for me, I was looking for zigzags when I came to Gobekli Tepe. And one day it occurred to me, if there's so many male pieces, where are all the female representations, right? People, right now, as far as people who are researching Gobekli Tepe think that there's no such thing as a female representation here, but there is. And it's weird stuff. We have to talk about serpent wombs, because, let me show you again. This pillar. Okay, remember this one? This was aligned also to the major lunar standstills, and it has the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 heads. Remember this one? With all the diamonds, and there was 9 heads on it. And it fits into one of the tridents. And to me, I mean, there's stuff about hunting nets and whatever in this stuff, but it's also one of the first representations, maybe the first representation of the celestial sphere. And that diamond shape is like serpent wombs in the end, but it'll take a long time to prove that. But what was the other pillar that had that stuff? Oh yeah, and then our you saw, I'll just add it in there later, but you've seen a bunch of pillars with this stuff. You see snakes with the diamond shapes, right? Snakes and diamonds, snakes and diamonds, snakes and diamonds. Yep. But that diamond shape is also like female genitalia. Oh. Yeah. So now let's look again at pillar 43. And you'll see what I mean. Because I'm saying that this is, wait, I'll start here. So because I'm saying that this is the ground, and this is the horizon, and that's the sky in the back, I'll show a thing about Lascaux, the caves there, where someone's done research to show that the squares are about cycles of time, where they're moon times. But look at this. So I'm saying this is the horizon, and that's the sky. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 11 squares, but in a year there's 12, right? But it's just here. So what they've done is they've taken these squares and put the moon in the end. You'll see it's the moon in the end. They put that here as the 12th one to show that this is about an event on the summer solstice. The sun is just dropping below the horizon, and the moon is just rising above the other horizon. So the sun is dropping behind you in the north, in the west, and the sun is rising where the winter solstice point would be. And these baskets, what order do I do this in? Okay, so the baskets should be about, they've buried people at related sites here. They buried people in baskets and covered them with red ochre in order to say like they're being reborn into the earth, because they carried kids around in baskets. You know, you'll see old pictures of, even today, people carry babies around in baskets and they'll strap them to themselves and stuff. And these female parts, if you look here, they made sure every character on here, every single character on here is coming out of one of those vaginas. Look, they've made the shapes bend around to fit every character. Even the sun came out of one. So the moon, just like Haran today, the moon was the parent of the sun. It's showing it right here. The sun is coming out of female genitalia. The moon is a birth canal, and they made absolutely certain that these are the only things that are not coming out of a birth canal on the whole pillar. You can see it here. Okay, look at how they avoided showing any square coming out of. You sort of have to look at this. You see how they made sure to make it like the squares are not coming out of any of these birth canals. They made absolutely certain with every little carving they made that it's the only stuff that's not coming out of it. Because if you look at everything else on the pillar, everything else is coming out of one. That character's coming out of one. Every third, like 1, 2, 3, and it's coming out. 1, 2, 3, and it's coming out. 1, 2, 3, and this thing was born in 1, 2. Even the vulture, this number 4 here, is spread all the way out around. And that's why this one takes the shape, because it was born by the moon as well. It's a child of the moon. And what's happening here is this rebirth concept is happening here. Everyone's looking at this because it's an eclipse. It's a lunar eclipse. And when that happened, a piece of your soul or whatever would go up. This is the part that's about rebirth and regeneration and all that. Are you recording stuff? So this conversation that everyone has about the baskets, there's a million different theories on what the baskets are about, but you have to remember it's in the context of them burying people in baskets and carrying children in baskets and then covering them with red ochre so that, as if to say they're being reborn into the earth. I guess we'll do a part 1 and part 2. Let's say that's part 1 for now, okay? And then part 1, and then we'll cover every single thing on here later, because other people who want to argue with me about this stuff, I've got a list of things you got to tell me. You got to tell me why there's 2 eyes on this thing, or if that's an eye or not. You got to tell me why the bird is touching the pillar on one side and he's got his foot on the underworld down here too. You got to tell me why there's notches on 2 of these baskets. You got to tell me a million things. Like, I've got anyone who wants to argue with me about this stuff is going to have a challenge on their hands. But we'll do part 2 later. Okay, that's it. Thanks.